Just working through some Achilles stiffness at a playground by my house. A lot of what I do is just try and find stuff that will recreate some of the issues I may be feeling. Here I found a great stretch where I dip my toes towards the floor but anchoring myself by my heels. A lot of stuff that I'm doing here, like I'm on my tiptoes, heels hanging over the edge, but I'm sitting my hips back just because I like to kind of explore. Don't really have a rhyme or reason on why I stretch, just kind of move around and see if there's any sensitive spots when I'm stretching. Here's one of my favorites, just on my tiptoes, and I'm trying to get my heels on my butt, so like I'm sitting on my legs, trying to get my legs as flat as I can so there's no gap between my legs, my upper leg and lower leg. If you're newer, you'd probably want to have some support. I do have those guardrails that I could use if I needed them, but do what you're comfortable with. You can kind of see a little bit too. I'm trying to rock on my heels just to recreate stretching certain areas that don't normally get stretched. So here's a side view of what I'm trying to do here when I'm dipping my toes down. I mean, that's not my tiptoes, so I'm not doing it yet, but here is where I'm just trying to pull my toes to the floor. So I've got my heels digging into the corner of that step, and I'm just pulling my toes to the ground. I was doing great, just for helping with some of that Achilles stiffness I was facing. Again, just exploring, just trying to see what I can recreate issues. Here I was just doing some calf stretches and trying to see things are maybe just stiff and just need to get loosened up. But this was a real good stretch that I had come across, so I did it a lot this day. Again, just trying to move my weight around just to see what recreates tightness I'm feeling. Here's one where I do want to support my body weight. As you see, I've got myself propped up by my hands. I'm trying to stand and also sit on the tops of my feet. I'm trying to support myself because I'm putting myself in an uncompromised situation, position, whatever you want to call it. So I don't want to put a lot of weight on myself when I'm in an unsafe spot. Again, just rocking around, trying to see what hits. This pulling the toes to the floor was getting some popping in my ankles, and a good popping just because I was seeing increased range of motion after these pops and less stiffness. So really, if I stopped getting that sensation, I try and do other exercises to get to a point where that original exercise would cause that popping to happen, just so I'm getting deeper and deeper into my stretches. And just rocking my weight. Some of this stuff, it doesn't look like it, but I'm sitting my hips back. I'm trying to lean into my hips one way or the other. Here I'm just showing that I'm trying to rock also on the balls of my feet from left to right instead of just dipping and raising. Tried two different angles. Wasn't sure what was going to get picked up by the camera. But just messing around, exploring to see what causes tightness relief, I guess is what you want to call it. Here I'm just kind of trying to turn my knees in, just stretch out my hips a little bit. Looks real weird, but it's a great way I found to stretch around my hip area. Other stuff too is just stretching the tops of my feet. Trying to get my ankles from the back, kind of so if I was directly stretching the Achilles and then the top of my foot, so the front of my ankle, just to stretch out every which way I can to ideally alleviate some stiffness. My favorite part about stretching outside is I get to hear all the sounds of nature, get to listen to the birds, hear the wind in the trees, and in this rare occasion, the bass from a car stereo in the parking lot. Never know what's going to happen when you stretch at a park. While I don't have a rhyme or reason for some of the stretches I do, if I do find one that is working well that day, like this one in particular where I'm pulling my toes to the floor, I'm going to do it and use it as a way to stretch out as best I can. So here I'm pulling my toes to the floor, and I'm pulling them back up to heaven, kind of like a tibialis raise. So all the way up and then all the way down. And that was recreating that popping in my ankle that was adding range of motion when it would happen. So it was a good pop, not a bad pop. Probably shouldn't call it a pop. Tension release is what I'll say. But it really felt good, and I recommend you all try and find a way to do this. To make sure I'm stretching full range of motion, I'm going to wiggle my toes about my ankle, left and right.
Let's see. So like today when I was stretching, I had some tight points in my ankles and the tops of my feet. And when I found at least those tight points in the tops of my feet, I'd almost start to rock my foot. So instead of just keeping my foot flat and going up and down like calf raises or otherwise, try and rotate about that pressure point. And that really helped with alleviating some of that pressure on the top of my foot. And even when I was, same deal when I had my toes dipping on the playground set, I was trying to rotate about my ankles. Rotate those ankles to kind of toes pointed in, toes pointed out, just a way to add some range of motion to the ankles and try and loosen up my ankles, my feet, and ultimately my Achilles.